Porter said, we have a juvenile justice planning and operation committee which came out of our policy reform that was juvenile justice reform. We realized back in 2007 that children at 16 were being charged as an adult. We had to change that because we all know that 16-year-olds are not adults. We changed it in 2010. We also have other programs that we do that are focused for our communities, such as Care for Kids, youth employment programs, youth nonviolent fundings that we do for communities around the state. We have male empowerment, youth prevention dollars that we do. So what we have to do is we have to create funding sources that can be used elsewhere in the state, but have a zero direction, a pointed direction for our cities and our communities in order for us to protect our communities going through.
And that is a big one, the youth prevention dollars that come down from the state. And I think just about, a few people on the panel actually receive money from the state. And what that does is help to support programs that support our children and help to get them on a track that is going to be conducive to education, good behavior, wraparound services, family supports, which is very important. And we also are working on a bill, it's coming to me. It's called the 2Gen, which stands for two generational, because we do recognize that a lot of problems that stem from communities of color are generational problems. So we're looking to address a 2Gen where we're dealing with the parents or the caregiver, because sometimes you have grandparents, aunts, extended family, or foster parents that are raising children. So we're looking at that as well to combat the contact that our children have in the juvenile justice system as well as the education system, the school system, specifically the public school system.
I just want to make a quick comment. First, to welcome the mayor. Thank you so much, Mayor Harp, for being here. And before I have to go, I just want to answer that question from the federal perspective. We're fortunate in the state of Connecticut that we collect information. But across the country, believe it or not, until recently, there was no requirement for submitting information about death in custody, death in police custody. If you don't know how often these kinds of deaths occur, you can't mount the case, you can't present evidence for doing something about it. So I submitted a measure, which actually was passed by the United States Congress. You know, you hear about how gridlocked and paralyzed Congress is. We got through bipartisan measure to require that police, corrections officials, all criminal justice authorities submit information about deaths while in state, local, or federal custody. So that's one area where, across the country, protecting black males, but also protecting citizens in general, is important to move forward. There's also criminal justice reform, which is now pending. I've supported it, helped to lead it, that would end a lot of the sentencing practices that, unfortunately, based on the numbers that we have there, indicate discriminatory application and enforcement of our laws, principally against African Americans, people of color, and third, also in terms of offering greater protection, equipment, body cameras. Now, we know they don't always work. They can be circumvented, but I have advocated that body cameras be provided across the country, that there be financial support for them, and better training of police officers in terms of their practices and policies in dealing with minority communities, but again, all communities. We are very fortunate in New Haven and in the state of Connecticut to be ahead of the curve on a lot of these practices and policies. Community policing, as Chief Esserman has remarked, and I was with him the other day when he was talking about the history of it, and the mayor has helped to lead it. Community